Hey guys, Conjurus back here again, now doing another toy review. This again is another figure that I picked up from my late friend Amber. This is one that I was really excited for when they announced it first time. I think it was one of the toy fairs I saw him. And he's based on the old Masters of the Universe movie figures. And so a little bit of history. This is the Masters of the Universe Classic Saurod. Now, when Mattel were doing the Masters of the Universe Classics line, they weren't sure if they were going to be able to incorporate movie figures because the licensing is, I think there's like issues with licensing and stuff like that. But they were able to actually because there was sort of like a loophole in the licensing, that they were able to do figures that were previously in the vintage figure line, and there was a few movie characters that made it into that line. So Saurod here is one, Blade was another, and Gwildor, I think how you pronounce him, was one of the other figures. I think they were the only three movie characters that made it into the actual vintage 80s figure line, so they were allowed to actually reproduce them in the classics line. So that out of the way, this is a review for the classics Saurod figure, which is one of my favourite design characters from that movie. The only downside about this figure, or not figure, but this character is, if you have seen the movie, and spoilers here, if you haven't seen the movie, he does get taken out quite really early in the film. He basically gets Boba Fetted in the film. He gets taken out really cheesily, and you kind of get left with the other henchmen that were created for the film. There was a couple of guys like Blade. He was actually one of the henchmen. I think the other guy was called Karg or Greg, something along those lines. And then there was a Beastman. He wasn't officially called Beastman as far as I know, but in the credits for the film he was called Beastman, but he was never officially called Beastman in the film. Like, he was never referred to as Beastman, but he looked like he didn't look like Beastman from the cartoons because he wasn't bright orange. But he did kind of look like a mix of Beastman and what's the guy from Hordak's crew, which I can't remember his name, but he's like kind of all furry as well. Grizzlor, I think he looked a bit like Grizzlor. Anyway, that aside, on to the box first, as always, and then onto the figure. So this is one of the few figures I have the boxes for. So you have the standard Masters of the Universe blister card packaging. I have the brick design, the Castle Grayskull style brick design at the bottom and on around the back of the card. Lightning going down. Classics logo at the top. Name of the character, Evil Spark Shooting Reptile. I'll get into why he's called that in a second. And then you got figures on the back. So for the figures on the back, you got He-Man, Beastman, Saurod, Blade, Gwildor, who I mentioned. I'm not sure if you can see him there. And then right in the top corner, you got Skeletor. And you have a brief bio for Saurod. Now this is one of the packaging that they still have the bio cards for. Later on, when Mattel were kind of, I wouldn't say winding down, but when they were kind of doing more recent figures, they got rid of the bio cards, which is a bit of a shame because I kind of like the little read-ups for them. So I'll read up the character. So it has Evil Spark Shooting Reptile. Real name, now, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this properly, but it's a Ngril. I'm not sure, or it's Kingril Chuluth. A Calabian lizard man from the planet Draphos. Saurod is the Terrible broke out of a prison star and rode a meteor shower across the solar system to Eternia. As one of the three reptilian races whose DNA was spliced to create the Snake Men, Saurod is a natural enemy of King Hess and eagerly joined with his enemies. He was recruited by Skeletor in an attempt to boost his forces against his former master Hordak. Saurod fought for Skeletor during the second Ultimate Battleground, slaying many Snake warriors including Squeeze and Snakeface in hand-to-hand combat. Using his laser, Saurod also tried to steal the cosmic key from Gwildor to go back in time and prevent the dilution of his species. So, as far as I know, these are kind of, because the film is technically not counted as canon, they just made up a backstory for him. But it's an interesting backstory. I do like the fact that he's not a snake man and he's pretty much his own race and stuff. So, onto the figure at hand. He is really, really cool looking. He's pretty much all new parts. I think the only thing that's not new on him is the body that they used underneath all the armor, which is removable, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt to take on and off. The body is basically one of the kind of standard Snakeman bodies, but everything else is completely new on this guy. He was sculpted just for this figure. So the head is all unique, the arms are all unique, the hands, the legs, the hips, the shins, everything are all unique. In fact, I think actually the only other thing that mightn't be unique is the bottom of the feet. They might be a reuse, but they look kind of new to me. I don't think I've seen them on any other figure. So now, just before I get onto the figure itself, I know I'm kind of procrastinating, but the reason he's called the evil spark shooting reptile is because on the original figure, and I'm not sure, I never had the original figure, but on the original figure he had a gimmick where the head had a sparkler thing on it. So I'm not sure if this hairpiece is what used to activate it, because I know when the Four Horsemen did the sculpting for these figures, they would leave on the sections that had the activation gimmick, but they wouldn't be usable. So for example, guys that like Dragster, where he had the rolling tire in his stomach, they sculpted a rolling tire, but it was just pure aesthetic. It doesn't actually move or anything. But for Saurod here, his gimmick was he had like the old Transformers, I think they were called Sparkle Bots. You'd have a thing that you'd move on, kind of move on the body or on the head or back of the head, and little sparks would fly out the mouth. So you don't see that in toys anymore, mostly due to safety reasons and stuff like that. But the original old 80s toy had that. Now, onto the figure's articulation. He's really well done. He can move his head left to right, side to side. He has a ball joint on it, so he can do kind of a side to side tilt, forward and back. He doesn't get a great 360 on it because of this piece on his back. It does hinder his movement going all the way 360, but you can get some good side to side on him. His hands are on standard ball joints, so they can go out that much and rotate all around. He still has the bicep swivel. He has a single jointed elbow, which can get a good 90-degree bend. Now, his left hand is sculpted in an open pose, and his right hand is sculpted. It's a really gummy plastic. It's sculpted to hold his pistol, which has a holster, which is really cool. He does come with this really neat looking pistol. Now, I'm not sure if it's designed off the original toy one. I'm not sure if it had a pistol or a weapon. But it does look really good. It might be designed off what he used in the film, and I can't remember him using... I think he did use a pistol, but I just can't remember what it looked like. So it can hold pretty well in his right hand. As I said, hand is a little gummy, so it does tend to go back into shape when you put the pistol in and out of it. And it does have a working holster that just holds into the side. He does have the waist swivel. He does have the ab crunch. As you can see, that's the kind of original Snakeman torso in underneath that. So he has waist swivel. He has swivel in the wrists. I love the way his hand is open like that, because he kind of did that in one of the scenes in the film. I think he jumps up on something and he kind of outstretches his hands, so they kind of recreated that for the figure. I'm not sure if the original figure had the hand outstretched like that as well. And then he has standard ball jointed hips. Now this hip, he can do the splits that much, but it's kind of hindered by this. It is a separate piece, it's not attached to the leg, but he can do the splits that much. And then he has single jointed knees. It's probably better to show it on the left knee. So yeah, he has single jointed knees. Doesn't get a full, you can just get a full 90-degree bend out of it. He does have the upper hip swivel. Now, unlike some of the other figures, he doesn't actually have a swivel cut lower down. And then he does have ankle articulation, but because his feet are really, really tight, it's really hard to get any kind of posing out of the ankle articulation. And then he does have a tail, but it's actually all part of the sculpting for the waist piece, so it doesn't have any articulation or bendy wire or anything like that, and it's all part of the one sculpt. But it's overall, it's a fantastically sculpted figure. Him and Blade look fantastic together. Now, I don't have my Blade at the moment to do a comparison with, but he does look really, really cool. So I do recommend getting him. He does look a little out of place on a shelf if you have the other Masters of the Universe figures, only because he has a more realistic movie look to him than the other Masters of the Universe. In fact, just for example, since he's standing right next to him, I'll just bring in Dragster. As you can see, the Saurod figure looks a little bit more realistic than the actual Dragster figure. Even though they still have the kind of bulky bodies and stuff like that, the Saurod figure kind of looks a bit more slimline than the standard Masters of the Universe bulky figures. But other than that, I think he's a fantastic figure. As I said, if you can still try and get them. I think he's still available on the MattelStore.com, I think it's called, or Mattel store website. He should be still available on their eBay page, but other than that, you'd have to, if you really intending on getting him, you'd probably have to pick him up on the secondary market. So there you go, guys, just a quick video review for this amazing Saurod figure. I do really love it. He looks really cool with my other Masters of the Universe figures in my collection, and I do recommend picking him up. So hope you enjoyed this video review. Hope you, as I say on my videos, if you liked it, feel free to like it, feel free to comment, and feel free to leave or subscribe to my channel as well. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this review.